The announcement of a $700 tariff rebate check program set to roll out in 2025 has quickly captured the attention of households across the country. For months, speculation has been swirling about what form federal relief or economic support might take in the new year, especially as families continue to navigate the lingering impacts of inflation, fluctuating energy costs, and rising household expenses. Now, with details emerging about this rebate program, people are asking the most critical questions. Who will actually qualify? When will payments be distributed? And what is the broader purpose behind this financial move? The government has framed these checks as a direct response to revenue collected through tariffs and trade adjustments, aiming to redistribute a portion of those funds back into the hands of everyday citizens. This strategy is not just about providing short-term relief. It is also being presented as a measure to offset the increased costs that tariffs may have added to imported goods over the last several years. To fully understand the significance of these rebate checks, it's important to break down how tariff-related revenues function. Tariffs are essentially taxes placed on imported goods, designed to either protect domestic industries or generate revenue for the federal government. When these taxes accumulate over time, they create a pool of money that, in certain policy frameworks, can be redirected to the public. That is precisely what's happening here. According to the latest information, the rebate program has been structured to prioritize middle and lower-income households, ensuring that the benefits are felt most strongly among those who are more likely to experience financial stress due to cost of living increases. Early reports suggest that eligibility will be tied to income thresholds, tax filing status, and potentially the number of dependents in a household. This means that while the headline number being discussed is $700, the actual payout could vary slightly depending on personal circumstances. Another pressing issue people are asking about is the payment timeline. Based on the rollout schedule being shared, distribution is expected to occur in waves throughout 2025. This staggered approach allows government agencies to process claims, verify eligibility, and ensure that funds reach recipients in a controlled and accurate manner. The first wave is anticipated to begin in the early spring months, with subsequent waves continuing through the summer and potentially into the early fall. For families eagerly awaiting relief, this timeline means that while the program is real and confirmed, patience will be required as the government works through its logistical challenges. Officials have emphasized that direct deposit will be the preferred method of payment, following the same system used in previous stimulus and rebate efforts. For those without direct deposit information on file, paper checks will still be issued, although these may arrive later than electronic payments. The origins of this rebate initiative are also worth noting. Lawmakers have pointed to growing concerns that tariff policies, while beneficial for certain industries, have had an unintended consequence of raising prices on consumer goods such as electronics, clothing, and household items. By offering a rebate, the administration hopes to provide some level of compensation for these added expenses while also stimulating the economy by putting more disposable income directly into households. Economists argue that such a rebate can serve as both relief and stimulus. Relief in the sense that it offsets past burdens, and stimulus in that it encourages consumer spending during a period when economic growth may need additional support. In fact, early projections suggest that households receiving the rebate are likely to spend a significant portion of it on essential goods and services, effectively channeling the funds back into local economies. Of course, whenever a program of this scale is announced, questions about funding, fairness, and political motivation arise. Critics have argued that rebates tied to tariffs may not evenly reflect who bore the brunt of higher prices, noting that some households spent more on affected goods than others. Still, proponents insist that distributing a flat or near-flat rebate amount is the most efficient and equitable way to ensure the money gets back to the public quickly. It avoids complex calculations that could slow down the distribution process and ensures that no group feels entirely left out of the relief effort. Moreover, By attaching the program to tariffs rather than general tax revenue, the administration can frame the rebate as a return of funds already collected rather than as a new expense for taxpayers. This distinction is being emphasized heavily in official communications as leaders attempt to build public trust in the program and avoid backlash from fiscal conservatives concerned about government spending. Eligibility criteria remain a central focus of public interest. Based on preliminary guidelines, individuals earning up to a certain income cap, likely in the range of $75,000 to $90,000 per year, are expected to qualify for the full $700 rebate. Married couples filing jointly with combined incomes below $150,000 to $180,000 may also qualify for the maximum amount. Beyond those thresholds, the rebate amount could phase out gradually, ensuring that relief is targeted primarily at middle-income families rather than the highest earners. Households with dependents may receive additional adjustments, although those details are still being clarified. What is clear, however, is that the program is not universal. Higher-income households may not see any benefit at all, reflecting the targeted nature of the initiative. For those concerned about missing out, officials are urging taxpayers to review their latest income filings and ensure that all relevant information, such as updated bank account details, is up to date before the program launches. The communication strategy around the rebate program has been carefully crafted to reduce confusion and ensure that the public clearly understands both the purpose and the mechanics of the payments. Government agencies are preparing outreach campaigns across multiple channels, including traditional media, social media platforms, and direct notifications through the IRS and Treasury websites. These messages emphasize that no action will be required for most taxpayers, as eligibility will be determined automatically based on the most recent tax returns filed. However, individuals who have not filed in recent years or who may have incomplete information on record are being encouraged to update their tax status as soon as possible. This is particularly important for low-income households and retirees who are not always required to file, but who could still qualify for the rebate if they take proactive steps. Officials are also warning against scams and misinformation, reminding citizens that the government will not ask for personal banking details through unsolicited calls, emails, or text messages. Beyond the mechanics of distribution, analysts are evaluating the potential economic impact of these $700 rebate checks. While the amount may not seem transformative on its own, multiplied across millions of households, the program represents a significant injection of capital into the economy. Early estimates suggest that billions of dollars could be released into circulation, with consumer spending expected to rise noticeably in the months following distribution. This, in turn, could provide a modest but meaningful boost to small businesses, retail sectors, and service industries that rely heavily on consumer demand. At the same time, there are concerns about whether such an influx of cash could reignite inflationary pressures, particularly if supply chain challenges persist. Economists remain divided on this question, with some predicting only a temporary bump in prices, while others warn that poorly timed stimulus could complicate broader efforts to stabilize the economy. Public reaction so far has been mixed. Many households welcome the announcement, seeing it as a much-needed cushion against persistent financial strain. Stories have already emerged of individuals planning to use the rebate for overdue utility bills, essential car repairs, or simply to stock up on groceries and household supplies. For families living paycheck to paycheck, $700 can represent a meaningful lifeline that helps bridge gaps in their monthly budgets. On the other hand, critics argue that while helpful, the rebate does not address deeper structural issues driving economic hardship, such as housing costs, healthcare expenses, and wage stagnation. For them, this program feels more like a temporary bandage than a lasting solution. Still, even among skeptics, there is recognition that any form of relief is preferable to inaction, particularly as the economic landscape remains uncertain heading into 2025. Politically, The rollout of the rebate program is being closely watched. Lawmakers backing the initiative hope it will serve as evidence of responsiveness to public concerns, demonstrating that tariff revenues are being repurposed in a way that directly benefits citizens rather than simply funding government programs. With a major election cycle approaching, the checks may also carry symbolic weight, signaling an effort to put money directly back into people's pockets. Opponents, meanwhile, question the timing and argue that the program is little more than an attempt to curry favor with voters. These debates are expected to intensify in the months leading up to the first wave of payments, with both sides using the rebate as a talking point in broader discussions about fiscal responsibility, trade policy, and economic justice. Another layer of interest lies in how this rebate compares to previous relief efforts. During the pandemic years, stimulus checks were distributed in larger amounts, sometimes exceeding $1,000 per person, with multiple rounds of payments. While the tariff rebate is smaller by comparison, it carries a different message. Rather than being framed as emergency relief, it is being presented as a redistribution of collected revenues, an effort to return money that, in effect, came out of consumers' pockets when tariffs raised the cost of imported goods. This distinction matters as it shapes public perception of the program not as a handout, but as a rightful return of funds. It also sets a precedent for how future tariff revenues could be handled, potentially opening the door for similar rebates if trade policies continue to generate substantial government income. Looking ahead, the long-term implications of the rebate program remain uncertain. If households respond positively and the economic impact is viewed as beneficial, policymakers may consider expanding the approach or institutionalizing it as a recurring feature tied to tariff cycles. On the other hand, if logistical challenges or unintended economic consequences overshadow the program's benefits, it could become a one-time experiment rather than an ongoing policy. Much will depend on the efficiency of the rollout, the clarity of public communication, and the tangible effects felt by recipients. For now, the promise of $700 in 2025 stands as a rare piece of good news for families navigating financial challenges, offering a measure of relief while sparking broader conversations about fairness, trade, and the role of government in economic life. In the final analysis, the $700 tariff rebate checks represent more than just a financial transaction. They embody the intersection of policy, economics, and public trust, serving as both a practical benefit and a political statement. For millions of households, the key details boil down to eligibility, payment dates, and distribution methods, all of which are now being clarified as the program moves closer to launch. Whether celebrated as relief, criticized as insufficient, or debated as political theater, the program has already achieved one undeniable outcome. It has captured the nation's attention. As 2025 approaches and the first checks begin to arrive, the real test will be in how effectively the promise translates into impact and how citizens view the role of government in turning collected tariffs into tangible support for the people.